All right. So here's another lively session from J Seb. It makes me laugh when people start going full commercial and they have like 100 followers. So it's not gonna be my style. So um, uh, apparently, a few people I know watched my last video. There are a few of them that did. And they said, oh, Jay said, don't compare yourself to Sam Sulek in any shape or form. Listen, I'm not comparing myself per se, but I'm just saying I love, if again, if you don't know Sam in the training, very cool. I just love his true approach just to record, do his thing. So that's essentially what I'm doing. And if at the same time I can give you life stuff, encouragement, or whatever it is, and you find this interesting. Somebody, I think my girlfriend would say that I'm putting this into the music scene or doing it over Logic as a good excuse to talk to you guys. Fuck it, why not? I appreciate talking to people, and I appreciate um, playing around with music and recording. So all of this to say, um, I finally took out a better mic. It's going to be a bit trebly, but I think it's going to sound much better. And I think I finally figured out the audio mixing all into one single station with OBS and all that good stuff. So I think the sound should get slowly but surely better. And if it's not perfect still, it's the message is what is the most important thing. Even if the audio is not perfect, or my voice or whatever it is isn't great, doesn't really matter. What I wanted to hit today, in my flow and from shit that I've learned over 40 years of playing around instruments and recording all that good stuff, is just leveling your stuff, a bit of EQing, leveling in general. And what I've chosen to play with is one of my tracks. I think the original name of the track is Lothar, one of the few backing tracks that I did a few years back. Essentially, this track sounds a little bit kind of mix and match of like if you had Rammstein meets Metallica or something like that. Not that I'm comparing myself to them again, but it's just that feel. Um, Again, one of my buddies says, "Oh, it would be cool if you could do that with some kind of R&B track or rap or something like that." Honestly, I wouldn't mind, but I can't go with commercial stuff. I don't want to be bothered by YouTube, so I try to take the original things that I've accumulated through the years, and just use those. So even if you're not a fan of that music, or even if you hate that music, I think the fundamentals remain where you'll be able to better manage a session. As I said in past videos, I don't care, and you shouldn't care what type of. Sorry, my throat is so goddamn dry. It's starting to get really, really cold in Montreal, like 0 degrees Celsius. Anyways, it just plays around with the body, I guess. I don't care what DAW you're using. All that I'm doing right here can be done in any type of DAW that you have. Ableton, Logic, whatever you guys are using. Especially if you're starting out, whatever you can get your hands on is going to be fantastic. If you have um, a Mac, Windows, or Linux, again, just figure something out, pick something on the net. I'm not into the review of products. Uh, but all that I'm doing here, especially for this session, is just looking at the type of leveling we can do, especially when you start to multi-tracks instruments. So here again, as I'm mostly a guitar player, I'm going to take a look at the guitar. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think I got a few more right here. Um, Most of these were recorded, if I remember well, with different guitars usually. On one side of the track, I'm gonna try to get some kind of Strat sound going. Maybe on the right side, I'm gonna get more of a Les Paul. Sometimes in the middle, I'm gonna bring in one of the Gretsch that I have again, just to get different feels, different sounds. I want to play the sound frequency at different places, so you don't, again, as I was talking in my past video, so that it feels round around your ears, that you're playing with the full spectrum of sound. So let's just hear the mix straight up. So you get the feel what I was talking about, that kind of like Rammstein, Metallica, whatever, like slowish, heavy. So when I record, I'm always going to separate my track based on themes. Like top lead, usually when I use the word lead or something, it's going to be mostly around the center of the track. So as you can see, this one is dead center. I've got a little lefty, I've got a little righty. Then I got a few more is going deeper on the side of the track. All this to bring the profoundness that you're looking for, especially when you're tracking. You would do exactly the same thing if you were tracking an orchestra. Certain instruments would be more in the middle. Then as you go off on the side, probably you'd be going to smaller violins and so on. That's a whole other it's a whole other subject. But the flow of leveling and placing, just forget about the details of compression and all those, like deep EQ. And again, my flow and my philosophy is about creating first and foremost. So if you're creating, that's what we're looking for. I don't want you guys to spend too much time in here. I'm spending time for you so that you're able to record. I'm going to repeat it once again. I am all about creativity. I don't feel we should be spending too much time on, oh, what's the best plugin to do that, or what's the best DAW to get the results that I'm looking for. Record. You get your plugin for drums. You get some kind of bass going. You can record those if you like. In this specific instance, I just used just a very basic bass sound. I just want to fill things up. In this case, the plugin is Easy Bass. Again, it could be Logic's own, it could be another one. That's not important. Get the sound that you're looking for. Um, as I don't have a singer on this track, it's not super important to manage the centerpiece, so you can go into the center. Usually, when you're going to have a singer, you want to keep the higher end of the track and the center of the track, the place where where the voice revolves around. Sometimes you'll have side voices and different types of songs, but most usually you'll find that the voice will be with the bass drum and the bass. It leaves room for the voice. In this case, there's no voice. So I can jump right into the center and I have a guitar. Now, when you listen to this alone, it could sound a bit weird. I'm not gonna say atrocious, but again, my goal is to create. So whether the sound is perfect or not, then I'm gonna bring the sides on those. Oops, I don't want to loop it. And this is what I want to talk about in this specific video, just leveling your stuff, bringing instruments in, and maybe bringing the instruments out. You want to make sure that there's not only the level here in your DAW, and that's, I think, I don't want to say mistake, but people put too much importance on simply leveling the volume of the instrument itself, but they forget about leading in the instrument. So in the first track here, this is a great example. I'm going to give it a level of sound depending on the field that I'm looking for, but also if we drill, you can see here that I'm bringing in the instrument. And in, specifically in Logic, you can do this just by hitting the side of the track. You can give it a curve, or if you go deeper, you can make it shorter or longer. And these are very small details that a lot of people sometimes, I guess you know about it, but you're just not going to put it into your mix just to level out. How am I going to bring in that guitar? How am I going to bring in the voice? How am I going to bring in that specific loop? It's not only about leveling or checking the volume of the track per se, but also how am I going to bring that in? So when I know that my side guitars are coming right here, when I start recording, I'm always going to uh, put a bit of frontage. Just I'm just bringing in the instrument a little, because sometimes when you loop or you record, there's going to be an initial click, pop, tick, whatever you want. These are extremely common when you start recording, unless you start recording like, seconds or minutes before, and then you just take that middle part that you're looking for. I'm always going to lead instruments in, whether it's a few milliseconds, a second or so, just to bring them in. So if you got this here, so these are popping in right away with the bass. Then when I want to bring in that lead, I'm not only putting it later, I'm not only going to level the volume per se, or the gain that the track is going to be bringing in, but I'm leading the guitar in. So if we go to that single instance, and I'll bring it about here. So now the curve is inverted, so that's not what I'm looking for. I'm just going to bring it a tad lower. So individually, may sound a little bit special, but when you put it into a mix, so you see here, both of these, they're a tad too late. So if you listen to it again, this is okay. I mean, the goal is to record, but we don't want to sound like idiots either. So I'm going to bring the thing a bit earlier. I'm going to bring those in here. Far from perfect, but at least the timing's a bit better. Maybe these are a tad off on the timing. That's a whole other conversation, but you can see here that the bass hits here. It's so the guitar maybe is not super well positioned, but in the whole reason of the mix and the whole idea we're trying to get to, it's decent. It's going to do the job. So maybe it's a little low. I'm just going to bring a bit more into it. There you go. It's Aziz that I remember when a friend I had back in the day, he would probably play with this for the next 4 hours. The track is laid. Now, when it comes to gain, volume, essentially they're all very similar. Technically, probably not. In the end, is what, type of volume are you bringing into the track? if you're playing with gain and it never seems to be okay, most probably you've got a bad recording. We can fix things, but this is a huge moral, and I'll say right away, in life, do the things right the first time. Don't, don't, oh boy, this could go deep. But hey, again, it's my style. If you don't like it, change the channel. Do it right. I've seen tons of people work with tracks and trying to make it fit. Oh, I'll remove some treble, I'll add some bass, and then they're going to go into the DAW or whatever tool they're using. Then they'll pop it open and they'll play. But as you can see, my EQs are super easy. Sometimes I'm going to play with specific frequencies. I've got some instruments. It's just built in. That's how it is. But record well. I'd rather you have in your mind that it's going to take, a longer period to record properly an instrument than to mix it itself, than recording super fast like an idiot, and then trying to fix all of the mistakes that you have while mixing the song. You can get plugins, but it's just at some point either your CPU is going to get clogged up by all the plugins that you're using, or it's just going to become too much work. So then you're starting to lose that creativity aspect in music. So, and I've seen a lot of people do that. They get super creative, but they completely forget about correctly recording things. So if you're just rapidly putting together a demo, or you just don't want to forget an idea that you have, that's fine. But if you want to deliver a certain level, a product of a certain level, choose the right amp. Take the time with the mics. I'd rather somebody take an hour with the amp and the guitar to place the stuff right once they have the riff and they remember the riff, of course, than to say, well, let's just record this crap super fast and then somebody's going to fix it while mixing. Engineers can be super good at doing that, but it always makes everything more complex. It makes the structure of the song more complex, the plugins, the usage, and in the end, you're just going to pay for it. Either it's going to take more time or it's just going to cost more money. So save yourself that situation. And don't be afraid to lay different types of instruments and try different type of instruments, whether it's adding a bass to the guitar track, like play the bass like a guitar essentially. Like you'll see here that, so I've got my top lead. If you can see here, super basic power chord, super, super basic. And let's see what we have down here. Very similar, maybe just a different range, panned a little bit differently. And again, the levels, I'm going to put the levels so that the sound makes sense, that the structure makes sense. And then you bring those together. So that top lead now, it's a bit too high. I'm going to bring that down. That's it. I'm not even looking at numbers. I'm listening. Let's just go a bit, let's just go to these other waves. So that's it. It's not super complicated, and probably this is not, again, your style. That you would mix it differently, you would put the levels differently, and that's the whole idea of what I want to do with my channel and the time I spend on here, to share with you. Do whatever you want. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody is. And it's not because somebody worked in a studio for 30 years that they know better. I've been doing my job for close to 30 years, guys. Like I said, I'm oldish. I'm going to be 50 in November. But it doesn't make me wrong or right or whatever. It's all about creativity and putting time. And oh, I guess somebody's coming over. I guess somebody was indeed coming over. The dog started barking, Mr. John Snow. So I'm going to end this. I don't want to keep it too long for nothing. It's really about calibrating. It's the most simple things that can make a big difference in a good mix. You calibrate the volume, you understand how you're panning the instruments. I'm actually going to be probably doing something just on panning. And I know some of you are going to find this ridiculous, but it does really make a big difference in your mix. So bringing the volumes, respect the space, don't be afraid to play in and play out of instruments every time you're using one of the loops, and make sure that whatever DAW you're using, especially um, when you're looping, to understand what happens with the ins and outs of volumes, because in those micro moments you can hear the wrong fade ins and the wrong fade outs. So just make sure they're clean, make sure it's nice, and keep creating. As I was saying, there's no right or wrong. Just keep creating.